department that determined that that's how they wanted to handle it, and they brought it in, and when the board accepted and adopted the budget thinking that things were normal, we found out later on that, you know, we were the ones that created the policy in a de facto fashion, and we didn't do it without a discussion and a debate like we're having right now. It was done, you know, kind of slipped in there. And I just am saying is, we need to pull it out and we need to discuss it if we want to do it. And if you want to budget twice for the same service, then do so and say openly and honestly that's what you're doing. And don't be telling me we're $3 million in the hole when you double budgets.
I'm happy to have a discussion, but I think, you know, we can't.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
talk
maybe a
about
study
it.
session?
Yeah, I mean,
But it needs-
we give all sides.
Yeah,
the
it needs to be
opportunity to-
implemented in conjunction with the new budget. You know, you're not gonna be able to retroactively do it. And this here basically takes the old budget and uses as a temporary spending fund until you get your new budget in place.
Maybe the first or second meeting in July.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if a board member has a valid concern, we need to hear it out and hear from both the auditor and everybody and come to, you
And
know.
as Jim said too, I mean, the department heads that get hammered with this, I mean, that's more contention with that.
Well, let's get all the facts and make a
Yeah,
decision.
if there's federal and state dollars to pay for the 87 costs, I'm 100% in favor of us maximizing reimbursement. I just don't like having our local dollar being used to pay for a local expense that we've already budgeted and paid for in the regular budget.
You want to bring it to the budget committee first and?
Well, if the budget committee wants to discuss it first, I have no problem with that, but ultimately, this board's gonna have to decide what they wanna do with that policy.
Well, we've had it, I mean, to the new members here, we've had it, I've been on this is my 16th year, and I think this will be the 16th discussion.
Well, it's been about the 10th discussion, because it's only been in the last 10 years we've had the problem.
I mean, it's nothing new, and I don't think it's snuck in under the.
Well, maybe the new board would be willing to do what the old board never had the guts to do.
Whatever.
So what's the pleasure of the board? Do we want to agendize this to discuss it further?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll do that. July 8th or 15th.
Make it July 15th.
Yeah, because we already have a 1:30 capital improvement plan.
Okay. Thank you, Diane.
I think I would have to, at least have Diana give us a short discussion at the next budget meeting. I disagree with Jim a little bit. I mean, Jim makes it sound like, and I'm not saying this is what he said, but it sounds like, we're hiding $3 million by doing this, and we're not, you know, we're not $3 million broke. This money is there, and I disagree.
Well, first of all, we're not $3 million broke. There's a lot of things that get left out of the picture, which makes it appear like we don't have the monies to work within that. The last moment they show up, and at the end of the year, the money's there. But at the same time, you take and you budget the same expense and flow it through a second avenue as well. You tie up money that could otherwise be available to take care of the things that we need to be taken care of. If we're not gonna take care of the things, then let's take the money and give it back to the people, because we don't need it.
So I disagree with that statement.
Well, I'm excited to see it all, you know, and study and learn from everybody, all sides, and better understand.
Absolutely.
So anyhow, okay, is there any more public comment on this one? Eileen?
I gave you a paper.
Oh, here,
The past 4 days, I've been on the computer and found a neat little thing, which I suggest, it's online, and, or you can get it from the auditor's department, the state controller's Schedule 10. It's really neat document. It's a mandatory document that every county has to file. But what's neat about it is that it summarizes your departments, and correct me if I'm wrong, it summarizes the revenue and the cost, and the bottom, it's not a big document. And in the bottom line, it tells you whether there's a net cost to the general fund or it paid for itself. It's really neat. I don't know whether you discuss that in budget or offer it, but it is a really neat document. We went back to, well, I went back, I did all the work. I went back to 2010, and it's just a really nice tool to see what departments are profitable, what departments are costing an inordinate amount of money, and maybe you should cut back on or eliminate the department, whatever. But it's a really good tool. Have you looked at the schedule pins?
Yes, I have seen the schedule.
Yeah, it's a really good tool. It's online, you can take a look at it, or I'm sure the auditor can provide it. I have some objections to this resolution. Government Code 2900, and that's what you're quoting here, defines the approval of an adopted budget has been formally approved after the required public hearings and deliberations. You don't have anything, and this is different from past resolutions because it's basically saying we are stating we have a budget and we are approving it, and maybe down the line we'll adjust it. I don't even think it's I'm not an attorney, but I don't even think it's legal for you to state using code 29,000 that you have a budget. You don't have a budget. The board does not have the authority under the law to adopt a budget resolution that states only theoretical intentions. I don't know why, maybe time constraints, maybe this can change, but I don't know why you don't have something to submit to the board by the end of the year. As you said, it's a living document, and you make adjustments during the year, and why not start in April and get a budget to this board by the end of June? And
we just heard that the state passed a budget last night, and a lot of our revenue is from the state, so.
but your guarantee, it says further, there is no way you can resolve to limit revenues to no greater than the last fiscal year. You don't even have those numbers yet. So you're making these false statements in this resolution when all you really need to do, my understanding is all you really need to do is say, we're resolving to continue to allow our county to spend money. That's all you need to do. The rest of this, I don't even think it's really legal because you're making false statements here. We pulled up, I was given this, a letter such as this in September 6, 2012 when Mr. Nichols was the CAO, and what's interesting in his statement that's lacking in this year's statement is that he asked to adopt a resolution establishing appropriations limit in the amount of $27,600,588 for the next fiscal year. If that was in there, it would make sense. The rest of this resolution doesn't help you, it doesn't help the people, and I don't really think it cuts the mustard on what you can and can't do according to Government Code 2900. So a lot of issues that I can see. Last year, you inflated the budget, inflated the expenditures by 63%, and I'm assuming you did that. I mean, these are facts that can be proven. I can, if anybody questions that number, I can actually show you from your last year's budget how you inflated expenditures. You had no intention of spending that money, but it does give a false sense to the public that you are broke. And maybe that was the intent,
Okay.
because...
Excuse me, your time. You're not going to continue to come and make false accusations.
Oh, I can say whatever I want, mister. You
Okay, well,
can't,
for 3 minutes.
you have to listen.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Supervisor Chapman?
Thanks.
I just wanted to state, Mr. Chairman, I disagreed with what some of the speaker had just said about how we don't have the numbers. You know, the 2013-2014 adopted budget is a specific spending plan that authorizes the auditor to cut checks and provide for the expenditures, and it's based upon a predetermined revenue schedule. And in January, we review that and we make adjustments for revenues that maybe we get excess revenues in some cases and less revenues than projected. So we make adjustments along the way, and the same thing when it came to like appropriations. If a department received a chunk of money unexpectedly and they have to expend the monies, you know, we amended the budget. And so that plan is there. And the historic practice, not only in this county, but I think it's true throughout the other 57 counties of the 58 counties, is that we take as a spending plan until such a time as we get the communications from the state budget that just got adopted as to how it's going to affect us for the next fiscal year. So for the first basically 30, 60, up to 90 days, because I think we have under state law until about October 1st to finalize a county budget. Given in the past when the state would not pass a budget sometimes until August, we would have to extend that because of the filtering down takes a period of time. But we have in that initial 30, 60 to 90 day time frame the need to operate. The auditor needs to have an appropriation that she can cut checks on and expend funds. And if you look at the resolution before us, it says revenues no greater than the fiscal year 2013-14. So the action we're taking today and basically continuing that operation is based upon those already predetermined as adjusted revenue scenarios, appropriations that are no greater than that. So the amount of money that was in last year's budget for the departments would be the same. It specifically precludes any capital assets, transfers out, or new permanent employees positions being, even though the departments may be anticipating that, we put a freeze on that. That doesn't happen until after the new budget's adopted. So we basically use the status quo spending plan and continue it so that the auditor can conduct the business that is necessary. That's the action that's before us, and that's allowed by law under these code sections. And I think that to state otherwise is not appropriate.
Yeah, we all realize it's appropriate, and we give far too much time on these meetings and waste everybody's time giving too much floor time to certain individuals that spend seems like their every waking hour figuring out how to disrupt and waste the people's time. It is the people's meeting, it's not Eileen Spencer's meeting. Okay, so the action requested is to adopt the resolution. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Well, I vote aye, but I hope that when we get ready to approve a new budget, that the issue and concern that I raised will be addressed and hopefully will not cause a no vote.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item H3.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. H3, of course, is a follow-up to the adoption of ordinance number 2014-004, passed upon by this group last week. As you all can tell from the memo I presented to you, pertaining to H3, measures don't come on the ballot by themselves. They require a resolution or a proclamation of election. I have submitted to you in the packet a proposed resolution, and I believe that the resolution contemplates all the issues that need to be dealt with in order for this matter to be presented to the voters for their consideration come November 4th of this year at the general election. And so there are a couple of things that I wanted to make note of. One is that you should be aware, I'm certain you are, of the ability to file arguments in favor or arguments against the proposed measure. There are some references in the memo that I submitted related to who can file those arguments in favor and who can file those arguments against, and likewise who it is that ultimately makes the selection of which argument would be utilized in the sample ballot material. And consequently, there is also an opportunity to reply or rebut the arguments of the other side, if you will. And there's a process that the elections officer will go through, and essentially, once an argument is received in favor, they'll make a copy of that and provide it to the persons who submitted the argument against for their creation of a rebuttal or reply. And so there's a process, and those deadlines are established by the elections officer herself. And so wanted you to be aware of that.
Those deadlines are actually established by, there's a parameter that's defined in code, so it's not like they just make it up themselves.
They don't make it up, but they will define the particular date, and they will notice us.
Well, I think the election code states that from, within this day, 95 days and
Yes.
75 days out is like a window that those, and it's up to the election officer to determine how that works with the calendar with weekends and holidays.
Yes, sir. Either way, arguments in favor or arguments against, I have an obligation to prepare an impartial analysis for publication in the sample ballot, and that will be done in a timely fashion. Likewise, there's a provision that contemplates, and there's a little bit of an assumption I made, and I hope it wasn't an unfair assumption on my part. I'm looking for some direction from you, and that is that this board has the authority to direct the auditor to prepare a fiscal impact statement, which is somewhat akin to a ballot argument. That is, it's a statement by the auditor which would be published in the sample ballot or voter information pamphlet that would be an analysis of the fiscal impact associated with either passage or non-passage of the measure. And I took the liberty of including in the resolution that no such fiscal impact statement be created, because the premise I was operating on was that there's no real cost associated with the passage of such a measure other than that which is associated with calling the election on the issue in the first place. There's no, say, year after year cost associated with it. At least that's how I viewed it. If you have a different opinion and or would like that, I'm certainly happy to change the resolution and re-present it next week. We have time, and so that was really my question to you. Other than that, I hope I've answered your questions and available for the others.
I would agree, there is no cost other than the ink to sign it on the ballot. Okay, is there any comment of board members?
The only comment I was gonna make is I just wanna make the board aware that, if they're placing this on the ballot, that I will be authoring it and submitting an argument in opposition to this, so that it does provide for arguments pro and con, and it can from the board as a whole, or any board member plus other department groups, so I will be, so you'd be aware that I will be offering an argument against for the ballot.
I'd be offering one in favor too for the ballot, so.
I think it allows for up to 3 people to sign an argument for or against, and then rebuttals in a similar fashion. If there's more than 3 people, then the elections official gets to pick who, so she divides it up.
So here we go again, respectfully this time. All right, any public comment? Yeah.
Iona McCain. Can I bring up an issue that came up earlier this morning? Something came to my mind that I recall about the deal with Angel. I was very emotional about that because of my past experience in working 5 years or so in the criminal arena, if you want to call it that.
Sorry, is this on this item?
No, it's not. I asked, could I bring
Let
it?
us finish this one.
Oh, I thought you were done.
No.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is there any public comment on this agenda item, the election term limits? No? Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I'll second that.
Alrighty, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, we need to poll this one, sorry. Madam Clerk.
Supervisor Chapman?
No.
Supervisor Alba?
No.
Supervisor Pyle?
Aye.
Supervisor Hammond?
Aye.
And Supervisor Wassett?
Aye.
Thank
Okay. Iona, we just have a couple more items, then I'm gonna give you the opportunity to. Okay, let's move on to item H4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Supervisor Hammond indicated earlier, he and I participated in a conference call with the governor's military council, California governor, that is. And one of the things that was discussed on that call was this association of defense communities, which it seems like a lot of communities with active bases are members of, and there seems to be a real good exchange of information. We looked at their website, a few things. So we are recommending that we join that organization. It's a cost of $240 annually. And part of that will be that they'll notify us of various meetings throughout the country that we may or may not want to participate in as they pertain to Sierra Army depots. That's the recommendation.
Under what category would you be joining?
We'd be under the active base,
Community?
yes, community, yes. The active base community,
Based on population.
but yeah, with less than 100,000, so.
Yeah.
I was just curious, because I mean, there's 2 or 3 that almost could have been under.
Right. Yeah, that would seem the most applicable to us.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I have a speaker card from Eileen Spencer on this item.
Are you going to limit me
Yeah,
from
3 minutes, go ahead.
agenda? Are you gonna let me talk?
Yes, go, 3 minutes. And anyone else that wants to talk, will limit this in the interest of fairness, it's a 3-minute.
You will, that's okay. I'm Eileen Spencer from County Health. I represent people you probably all have lunch with. We're a 12-year-old organization. We ask questions. We do our research. And I'm sorry you're tired of it, but you gotta get used to it because it's not gonna go away. My question was answered partially by Mr. Egan, but why haven't we joined this before? Is this a new organization? And why haven't we joined this before? Is it because we have a really good supervisor in that district? Brought it to the attention? And what actually are the advantages of this? I mean, $240 isn't that much money, but could you explain the advantages? And I think I'm under 3 minutes.
Give you a brief explanation. I mean, I went to Washington DC to one of these meetings, and I met the actual head of the Army installations man there. And I met some of the Senate Defense Committee members and also some of the Congressional Committee members. And our input to them is vital to assisting our base. And we're just getting started. They do have meetings. I think the next one's in Monterey coming up. Yeah. And actually, believe it or not, Plymouth Sierra paid for my lodging there, REA, because of their interest in the county. Had no expense when I went to
Do
Washington,
you go
DC.
representing PSREC or do you go
No, I went
representing
to
the?
Lassen County. Lassen County.
You're going to the Monterey one?
I'm not sure of the dates, they seem to be a little confused with that, and yes, I would like to do that, absolutely. There's an upcoming BRAC, 2017 BRAC, and these people have been organized for years. And now we just got our foot in the door, and they're gonna hear from us.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, no problem.
All right.
So Tom, is this just like an informational deal? Is this kind of a lobbying group or
Both,
something?
both, and there's also a Southwestern Alliance Defense Community thing that's, the board members are all ex-military, they're ex-staffers on the Senate, on the defense committees, and they have participation that, it reaches way up into the federal.
I guess my next question is there a state organization or is it just the federal?
This is a national one.
This is the national.
This is the national one, in the California Council of Defense
Yeah, the governor's
military.
council was formed for the period of 1 year to come up with specific recommendations on base issues, and that was supposed to be concluded in March, and then they would issue a report, and that would be the end of it. And what we learned on this call was that they feel that it's important enough to continue that council, and so that's what they're doing. So that council, governor's council, will be continued, as far as we know.
It's incredible some of the participations that other communities have in this thing. It's, when you start listening to them speak, and the money that goes into their communities is huge for their communities. So to have a voice there is important for us.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, if I could add a comment, if I could, Mr. Chairman. You know, back in the early mid-90s, when the BRAC process was, you know, going full bore, at that time, you know, while I was on the board, I think in your seat, Bixby was the administrator, Sorvall, they were very active and involved in not only the state organizations, but this, national organization, going to these same kind of meetings. And then Everett took Lyle's place, and I think he probably attended some of those same meetings. But then when, basically with the war, Afghanistan and Iraq, you know, when we got ourselves, we're out there fighting big time around the world, you know, the BRAC thing sort of kind of shuffled down, and I think the attendance of these things kind of fell off. I mean, but now that the wars are winding down, and they're going to be looking at probably future BRAC type processes, and so it's kind of cyclical in terms of the process. So this isn't the first time that we've been involved, and you know, over time it became probably not for the lobbying efforts as well as for the information. And you know, it's something that's worth being plugged into. I think it's great that you know you found that foot in the door and re-engaged in that process, because I think we need to be very mindful. I mean, as they say, if you're not there, you know, participating, having a seat at the table, you're going to be on the menu. And that's true in pretty much every field, whether it's public lands or military stuff or environmental stuff or recreation. I mean, whatever the issues are, I mean, it's key to have that participation. But I think now it probably is more important than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And it definitely was a big thing back in the mid-90s, you know, 20 years ago. So I'm glad to see that we're doing this.
Thank you. Okay, so what's your pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion for us to join the
I'll
Association
second.
of Defense Communities.
All right, if there's no further discussion, we'll take the vote, and all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, item H5.
That's me. I'll try to be quick. I've got a few items. I attended the
Three.
I'll try to do that. Last Friday, I attended the governor's task force on drought in Montague, thank you. And it was an interesting meeting, but you know, for the most part, everybody's got the same problems and not really making any rain. But
Rained pretty good last night here in town.
yeah, maybe it did some help.
Yeah.
One of the issues that I raised and was echoed by Modoc County and some of the Sacramento Valley counties was this curtailment letter that's come out to a lot of agricultural water users, indicating that you know they're going to be subject to some pretty severe penalties if they don't curtail their use of waters that flow into Sacramento River and San Joaquin River. And it was a very ambiguous letter basically saying that you're going to have all these penalties but not citing any authority or anything like that. And so we agreed to have a conference call this week with the chair of that state agency to try to define what exactly they mean by that. And so I'll be reporting back to the board on that. Supervisor Outlaw is really interested in that.
That was the water board.
Water board.
Could I ask you a question? Are we gonna get the involvement of the Claude County meeting we had into this?
Let's see, MODOC was there. This drought task force, anybody's invited.
Right, I understand that, but were they there? And if they weren't there, we need to
MODOC
rally
was,
the troops.
yeah, MODOC was there. I didn't see anyone from Sierra Plymouth, we can pass that along. The next item, as you all know, the state adopted, or, passed the budget, not yet signed by the governor, Sunday night. There was some rhetoric about all the increase in programs and funding in that. I've been through it one time, didn't really see anything too beneficial to the counties other than